Welcome back. 44 minutes after. Let's talk about currencies. You've got the dollar rising against the euro and the yen as the Japanese finance minister expresses confidence in U.S. debt at today's G8 meeting. Dan Katzive is a currency strategist over at Credit Suisse, and he joins us now from his firm with an outlook. Dan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey, so that G8 meeting, do you expect anything to come out of there that could really impact the currency markets?
Well, this is a finance ministers only meeting, so there won't be central bankers in attendance. So typically, those meetings, you don't get anything formal on currencies, but we could get comments on the sidelines from finance ministers. The dollar has definitely reached some interesting levels versus some of the currencies of some of the finance ministers that will be there. So you may get some comments on the sidelines.
Dan, what might be some of those comments on the sidelines in your view?
Well, I think similar to the Japanese comments you mentioned, I think you may get expressions of support for the dollar as a reserve currency and maybe concerns about rapid FX moves expressed. But, really, it's not, when people worry about the dollar's reserve status, it's not really the G7 they're worried about. It's countries that are outside of the G7.
Do we need to be worried about the dollar at this point? Do we need those various foreign officials to but talk up the dollar?
Well, there's definitely some negative sentiment about the dollar's reserve status. So it would probably be helpful for the currency and helpful for the currency market if some of these officials said things like that. But it's not going to change the underlying drivers of reserve diversification, which really have more to do with overaccumulation of dollars than any particular view on the dollar's reserve status.
How does that all bode, though, for the outlook for the dollar at this point?
We think the dollar is going to remain under pressure generally simply because yields are too low to attract adequate private sector flows to support the currency. And when you get to levels that are a bit extreme from a valuation standpoint, then you need to be careful. Some currencies are already there.
Right.
We think Canada dollar has moved a little bit too far versus the dollar and is now coming back a little bit. We think the euro still has a little bit more upside, but we think there's most room to run in dollar yen before you start to really reach a serious valuation constraint.
Dan, talk to me about that relationship dollar yen. How much more in terms of a run here?
We think dollar yen can get down to 90 in the relatively near term.
Really?
Yeah, we think a lot of market participants think that the yen cannot appreciate in an environment where stocks are doing well. But if you look back historically, there are numerous periods of time when the yen was positively correlated with stocks. And in fact, Japanese exports will do better in a recovering environment of recovering trade. Japanese stocks may be in demand from foreign investors because they tend to be exporter or manufacturing companies. So there's good reasons to think that the yen can do well in an environment of better production activity.
Dan, we talked about maybe potential talk on the sidelines among those G8 attendees. So much buzz about the potential for a new global currency, and China and some others talking about that. Do you think that at all will come up, be it on the sidelines?
I mean, you may get sort of vague comments about the long-term status of the dollar being still strong and the dollar still a reserve currency. I don't think finance ministers have any interest in saying anything that would fuel those concerns at all.
You guys who track the currency market, though, how much momentum are you hearing when it comes to a global currency, a new global currency? Do you really feel like there's any, that this could be a reality, or just a lot of talk here, some jockeying?
I think most people in the market realize that this is something that's many, many, many years away if it ever is going to happen. For now, there's not many alternatives to the dollar. The only issue is that reserve managers already have a lot of dollars, and they have to sell dollars just to avoid accumulating too many, because they're basically absorbing reserves all the time.
Right.
And just to avoid getting overweight dollars, they need to buy other reserve currencies constantly.
Dan, I'm wondering if next week is a bigger deal for the currency market. And I bring that up because you've got the BRIC nations, you've got Brazil, Russia, India, and China meeting next week. Is that a bigger deal potentially for the currency market?
Well, there's probably more potential for negative headlines there. There was some concern in the FX market about comments that Brazil and Russia made earlier this week about investing in IMF bonds, IMF-issued bonds. So people are sensitive to the idea that the BRIC nations might be looking at other currencies or looking to diversify. We think that that's a very real concern. We don't think the IMF bonds per se are going to be a source of weakness for the dollar, but we think that it is something to watch.
Hey, Dan, got 20 seconds left. Got a favorite currency here?
I think the yen has the most room to run right now in a weak dollar environment. So dollar yen is one of our favorite shorts right now.
Right, you're watching that 90 level, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
All right, good. Hey, Dan, thanks for breaking this down with us. Have a good weekend.
Okay. You too.
Dan Katzive of Credit Suisse.